When Chrissy disclosed things that she had been concealing for years, Jim Jones, who had stood by her during charges of adultery, didn't dispute or interrogate her. Instead, he marched out of this street clashes and TV drama. Without looking back, there were no trims or edits, just complete mayhem. And the leak wasn't simply sloppy, it was. Chrissy Lannon's agony didn't end when she lost it. Instead, she snapped in Camron, the person who did it, ruined her life with a single audio leak and a terrible message that confirmed a enduring issue and a betrayal that is more profound than anyone could have predicted. It's not simply reality TV anymore. It's a full narrative of deceit, treachery, and covert clues that you're. Chrissy Lampkin is crying over a leaked movie that stars Camron Jim Jones, and he's about to hear the portion they don't want the world to hear, because once it's out, there's no going back. Abruptly exited as though he was finished with a whole ridiculous thing. But let's not act like this is just another hip-hop and love meltdown, because in addition to being messy, this is radioactive, according to certain case-related sources. A hidden film that was purportedly made years ago just came to light, depicting Camron and Chrissy in a triangle that might be more than just amorous. The timing of this leak is horrible because, depending on who you ask, it comes amid accusations, reality TV therapy, public breakdowns, and relentless criticism on Instagram. When Jim abruptly left at a private dinner, Chrissy is devastated because it was alleged that he was finalizing a commitment to her, either another proposal or a full-blown elopement situation. An informant told us that she hasn't stopped crying since the movie went viral. She claims that Jim hasn't answered calls because she didn't even know the movie existed. To be honest, who can blame him? The footage is grainy and choppy, but the pals are anxious, and her team is on damage control. They stated, "I can't do this any longer." Chrissy's look is sad, and the voices are distinct. But this is where things get even worse. A few hours after the video went viral, Camron posted an enigmatic tweet that said, "Something ought to have been kept private." The message alone caused a digital conflagration, and many people are now wondering if this leak was. Given that Camron and Jim haven't been friends for a while, this might be a deliberate or unintentional act of retaliation, or a last-ditch effort to attract attention. Some people believe that Chrissy was more engaged in the separation than any of them revealed, and there is history in old scars. Could this video be the final piece of the jigsaw, or is it just? The beginning of a new dispute may be traced back to the early 2000s, when Chrissy Lampkin and Camron Jim Jones were enjoying their lives in Harlem, thanks to Ling's stardom and street power. Chrissy was constantly present. On a mixtape, Camron once stated, "Keep your lady near, or she could wind up thinking it was just bars." There were allegations that Chrissy wasn't always Jim's alone. But it wasn't just romantic, it was history. A woman bucking the odds was a firefighter, and Chrissy was the one who proposed to Jim on national television. Starter and the focal point of the entire situation at the time, but nothing was ever verified. She was initially called Jim's girlfriend, then his ride or die, and lastly the person who kept him down when nobody else would backstage. Tentative looks and questionable comments ensued, and things became darker when a trustworthy source from a hip-hop and love production group there asserted that, in unpublished video clips that were never displayed, Chrissy alluded to a relationship with Camron. She also mentioned other things that were removed from the show, such as requesting commitment were disregarded, but there was a great deal of sorrow behind that moment. Now it seems like all of that fortitude and work just exploded in her face with a single leak, abandoned by everyone but one. We all understood that the group member she was referring to was the one she did not identify. But what if that loyalty went beyond all boundaries? What if Camron was more than simply a buddy who supported her? Some people believe Jim is being held captive since he has been oddly quiet, posting no Instagram stories, tweets, or anything else. This is unnerving for someone as sensitive and opinionated as Jim. Others believe he is being dishonest in Miami, but it's not only the video, it's also the timing. This week, Chrissy was on a podcast talking about second chances, trust, and Jim and I are stronger than we've ever been. She said, "I'm ready to have a child now." Who could have imagined saying that and then understanding that the internet has turned into a vast crime lab, slowing down and enhancing the audio while comparing tattoos to old images. Buzzing hashtags are going viral, and treachery is just personal. A popular gossip portal purportedly posted a direct message from Cameron Burner saying, "What if I told you Jim's girl was mine?" Months ago, laughed off and deleted, but now it's being screenshotted, shared, and examined like gospel. And everyone is wondering if this is a time bomb or a slow-burning storyline. Went off when it hurt the most, you know that mother. It's been suggested that the whole thing was staged to obtain influence and hit contracts. But if that's the case, nobody told. Chrissy's tears and breakdowns seem genuine, and several witnesses think she had a panic attack during a meeting, trembling and breathing heavily while yelling, "I didn't do this." If that's acting, get her an Oscar. Scott Young is somewhere drinking tea and laughing while organizing the once-in-a-lifetime reunion episode. Fans were fast to scrutinize every word, even comparing the tone of the audio to Chrissy's previous recordings and footage from years before, in which she appeared to angrily ridicule Ever for being faithful to Jim. She drew it with a sense of betrayal, and the quiet between them made her legs shaky. She sat at the edge of the velvet couch, holding her phone silently, as if every breath were being stolen. Even though it had just ruined her fantasies, including Cameron's film, which was explosive and nasty, and had what seemed to be voicemail that had been there the entire time. While Jim was concentrating on the investigation, investigators were busy with a message that put everyone into a panic. The command area blew up, and Chrissy was planning the entire time. Incorrect one, but according to news reports, Jim Jones had driven away from their house in a black SUV with tinted windows, his face expressionless, and he hadn't texted or talked to Christy. After the film concluded, silence was more effective than shouting, and then there was another startling revelation. A website that was notorious for publishing dubious content at this time, and the bloggers weren't. In addition to restocking gossip channels and scheduling exclusive interviews over the pair's alleged infidelity, they just reported that they shared a picture of what they claimed to be an old text. Chrissy allegedly commented, "If this goes bad, I know Cameron," in a communication with Cameron. Chrissy responded with a cheeky emoji and stated, "They just don't realize that I caught you like I inevitably did." People started speculating right away about whether Chrissy and Camron had a secret relationship behind Jim's back, a full-blown betrayal, or whatever. Chrissy remained mute on social media, but in a now-famous TikTok, an anonymous source posing as a hairstylist for her social circle shared information that made Chrissy chuckle. When Cameron's name was spoken as though he wasn't her boyfriend's OP, love and hip-hop executive producer, Jim Jones Mona Scott released an enigmatic statement that included some details. After seeing a 2007 Instagram picture of Chrissy and Camron in a private backstage location with Cam's hand resting low on Chrissy's yan, the industry started to react, and she unfollowed the two. Say, don't appear fresh and new when the receipts are always there. Dandy Smith posted a weird tweet that read, "Karma always has the last. Remember your comment below a blog post, Mel? Betrayal will cost you everything." The response was not just digital, but also monetary, as multiple businesses Chrissy had collaborated with began to distance themselves from a posh wig company. She merely promoted one item of jewelry, despite the unquestionable proof photo having been. According to some close to the rapper, he has been totally gone from Miami, making no studio or public appearances since celebrities began to weigh in. Sessions on day 4 of this scandal public, a fan actually shared a hazy photo of him in a hotel in South Beach, his face looking worn out as though he was dishonest on all fronts. When Camron hinted at writing a second book as the internet began to take over, people's sentiments began to change while Chrissy was previously seen, and the unfolding drama was heading into unprecedented territory. Added 10 more layers to the conspiracy for each minute Chrissy didn't speak up following a document leak that would have ended the tale, and right when things weren't getting even worse, a fresh rumor surfaced suggesting that Chrissy may have planted the seeds of suspicion years prior, pressuring Jim to break up with Cam in order to control the narrative and shield her. The Ride or Die fans suddenly referred to her as a mastermind, and memes with titles like Plot Twist Queen and the actual reason Jim never married her and Chrissy. According to those close to the sources, Dipset Chrissy was dissolving like never before and had isolated herself in a lonely Hampton, which is why her name became well known as the Unseen Criminal. An unidentified stylist claimed on a gossip website that Villa is avoiding the media and has even severed ties with her closest pals. The question wasn't whether Chrissy was guilty, but rather how much of Jim's life she had influenced, and that she spends her days crying because the floor is white, not even her mother. Despite her collapse, the audience exhibited no signs of disbelief when Cam returned to Instagram with a second live video a week after the original breach, this time dangling a paper. Rather than showing empathy, he was eager for the final straw PDF files and spent the first 30 seconds just nodding and staring at the camera as hundreds of people watched the chat and said, "Stop it." And let me explain why Jim lost faith in the crew and how deep ended things because you wanted answers. Cam's sheets are covered in makeup, and it's dark, and he displayed 2 old, grainy photos on the computer, but what they appear to represent has gone viral on social media, which is why loyalty is a joke in this business. The first picture features Chrissy lounging next to him. Chrissy follows the unnamed man with her eyes closed and his arms slung over her shoulder 5 minutes after he enters the well-lit lounge. The image depicts a. Less than an hour into the mystery, Twitter disclosed the man's name. Some speculated that it was a well-known music industry figure, while others saw a smiling face and a camera on a hotel room door. The most strange notion was that it was an A-list actress who had a private relationship with Chrissy throughout her musical career, as opposed to a competitor rapper who had made fun of Jim Jones in a song from 2015. Career, and that she desired a track from his business music, but the tale had already shifted, and it became even more problematic when a third unnamed individual claimed to be Tim Timona Scott's. I urged him not to say anything because a woman who sounded a lot like Christy was captured on camera saying, "Camron knows too much." He said, "I'm done. Jim would actually leave me this time." The voice wasn't verified, but it didn't matter because the video went viral. In less than 2 hours, garnered notice on blogs. Chrissy's most recent confession garnered over 3,000 comments on Reddit threads, and fans started creating full-length films that exposed Chrissy's purported. Over the years, Jim Jones has used deceptive techniques. When he appeared alone in a New York club, he stood in the VIP area with his arms crossed and a drink in hand, rather than rapping or performing. When We Fly High began, the crowd began yelling "Christy of Christy" and Jim Jones, while the DJ played legendary hip-hop tunes. But he remained mute and simply closed his eyes. Others claimed he seemed to be praying, while others claimed that he seemed to be methodically repeating each sentence. One anonymous nurse told a tabloid that she was under continual surveillance and that she was feeling very high. As breathing became harder, the blood pressure continued to repeat, "He hates me, he'll never forgive me, it's over." The descent was almost done. Unrecognizable for someone who, following a panic attack that nearly drove her to the ER just as the public was about to be exposed, had formerly governed New York's most dangerous circles with unshakable conviction. When a fourth participant entered Jim's open, uncensored conversation, I told you that she wasn't correct, and you all called me a hater. You assume I missed the small detail. Cunning looks in the private discussions, but now you know what I did. It was the last straw in Chrissy's public persona. The woman who waited 20 years turned back on her. According to a leaked email acquired by a suspicious media outlet, she never received a ring, even though it seemed like she was preparing to re-release an old love and hip-hop film with a fresh setting. Despite Chrissy's continued disappearance, the mother, who is renowned for maintaining her composure, went live on Facebook and emotionally and mentally dragged her by her weave. A handwritten message purportedly attempted to reach Jim from someone close to her, leaking into the dimly lit room, and said, "I fans were split with half feeling sorry for her. I don't want forgiveness, I want the truth." Game Time was about changing history, not just about betrayal. Brands weren't simply terminating their relationship with Chrissy, they were. The man who had supported her through thick and thin was now out here by himself, laser-focused, and trying to stop Chrissy from claiming to be their ambassador by suing another partnership. According to the claims, he is already being contacted by Record. The other half of the label snapped, but he claimed it was too late. Days later, Jim was photographed without his businesses, engagement rings, and streaming. Opportunities to share his narrative in a complete documentary series. But Chrissy is still trolling, and Camron is still remaining concealed. I attempted to caution them not to be weaponized, even though I wasn't flawless. I loved you and never intended to ruin you, even after I lost. He accomplished this by sharing a final meme that reads, "Love doesn't pay. Pay attention." As soon as the online user replied, Camron Jim, the victim, the king of small-time offenses, and Chrissy, the blueprints for betrayal are not sorry. The closure is a complete disaster.